And as people are continuing to log in, we'll go ahead and get started. I would like to welcome everybody today to the MAG Transportation Ambassador Program meeting. My name is Didi Castilla. I am the Human Services Transportation Program Manager here at the Maricopa Association of Governments. I am an older Native American female with dark hair, glasses, sitting in front of a desert landscape background. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedules to spend the afternoon with us. Before we begin, I would like to introduce Ezequias Bocha to provide some housekeeping items. Ezequias? Ezequias, I don't know if it's my...
Oh, sorry, I was
Okay.
muted. There we go. Hi, Didi. Thank you so much. And welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's STAB meeting. My name is Ezequiel Rocha. I am a male, brown skin, wearing a blue polo shirt, and I have the city of Phoenix landscape, the cityscape in my background photo, video. Um, uh, I am also the Human Services Transportation Planner at the Maricopa Association of Governments, and I have just a few housekeeping items before we get started. The controls for this meeting are located at the bottom bar of your Zoom window. Please enter the name and organization you're with on the chat box. If more than one person is watching using one computer, please enter the name of all the people attending this meeting. Also, you can use the chat box if you have any comments or technical issues, and we'll do our best to assist you. If you have a question to the presenters, you can either use the chat box or voice your questions by unmuting yourself when the presentation opens up for questions. We ask that you keep your microphone mute at all times during the presentation. This presentation is being live captioned. If your captions are not already showing and you wanted to turn them on, you can do so by clicking in the CC option on the bottom menu and select Show Subtitles. This meeting is being recorded, and a recorded version of this meeting will be available at the MAG Human Services Transportation website. For those who just joined us, welcome to the meeting. Now it's back with you, Didi.
Thank, thank you, Ezequias. Next slide. Our agenda for today, we will be having a presentation by AZ April, also presentations from Valley Metro updates, the City of Phoenix updates, an agency spotlight, regional human services, transportation updates, and sub-regional mobility managers focus groups. And I apologize, we will not be having a public health update. Unfortunately, Lori, who provides those updates, was called away to another meeting. So thank you. Before we begin, I would like to start with a polling question on to give our speakers here today an idea of who is attending. So, Ezequias, if we can pull up that polling question. What type of organization are you representing today? Is it a government agency, a municipality, nonprofit agency, for-profit, citizen, or other? And if you do choose other, if you want to put what the other is in the chat, that'd be appreciated. So we'll give you a couple of seconds. Okay. Thank you for answering that poll question. And a majority of you today, actually close to 70% of you today, are from nonprofit agencies. I'm very happy to see that we do have some municipalities present today and government agencies. So thank you for asking that question. I would now like to move on to the next presentation. As part of their TAP program, we offer information on resources for consumers that you can take back to your organizations and share. I saw a presentation on ABLE at a different meeting, and I thought this information would be great to share to you here today. So I'd like to welcome Brittany Chipley from the Director's Office of Community Engagement to present on the ABLE account. Brittany, thank you for being here today.
Hi, Didi. Thank you for having me. Unfortunately, I'm having some issues with my camera today, so um, you guys can't see me, so I apologize for that. But I am a Black female, and I have on a black and white dress, and I have long, dark brown hair. Once again, Didi, thank you for having me today. I really hope you guys, usually it takes me about I would say 45 minutes to do an able presentation, but I know I have limited time here. So if you can go on to the next slide and we can go ahead and get this started. So I am Brittany Chipley. I'm the executive director. AZ Able is actually administered by under DES. So, and it's actually under the Division of Business Services. That's where the program is operated under. So what exactly is AZ Able? AZ Able is Arizona's Able Plan. Right now, there are 46 states, including Washington, D.C., have Able plans. There's some plans out there that are only state-only plans, which means you have to be a resident of that particular state in order to participate in their plan. But then there are also, I want to say, somewhere around 28, 29 national plans out there, which means you don't have to be a resident of that particular state to open up an ABLE account within that state. AZ Able is only offered to Arizona residents, so it is a state-only plan, and we have a partnership with Ohio's Stable Account Program, which is the name of Ohio's Able plan. So you have AZ Able, which is Arizona's, then you have Ohio Stable that we're partnered with. And once again, like I said, is administered under DES. So AZ Able allows individuals with disabilities, their family and friends, basically whomever, any organization, whatever, allows them to open to basically and it's an investment account that allows qualified individuals with disabilities to save and invest money without losing eligibility for whether it's Medicaid or SSI. But we can go beyond that. It could be HUD benefits. It could be a young person who's getting, or a student who, someone who wants to um, go to college, and they actually applying for their FAFSA forms. They don't have to, the money that they have in their ABLE account cannot be counted against them. Money in ABLE accounts cannot be counted as a resource. Next slide, please. So it was actually signed under the Obama administration back in 2014. And then Governor Ducey signed it into law here in Arizona in the summer of 2016. We not too long ago, early spring, we celebrated our fifth birthday. We launched March 5th, 2018. We're actually ranked among all the state-only plans. We are ranked number one when it comes to assets under management, and then the average account balance that we have, our account holders have, and then also the amount of accounts we have opened since 2018. We're ranked number one for state-only plans in those aspects. They are very similar to 529 education savings plans, a retirement plan. A lot of people, I know some people even have, not only do they have a special needs trust, but they also have an ABLE account. But they can also have the capability to function like a regular checking account. These accounts, we have 4 mutual funds that range from aggressive to conservative if you want to invest in the market. But if someone doesn't feel comfortable investing in the market, they can actually just keep their money in the regular bank safe option. And I want to say it does yield annual percentage. Right now, the last time I checked, it was a 4.75% yield on that. So that's how our program works. There are other plans out there where I've seen some plans where they have maybe like 12 investment accounts. But for us, we have 4 investment accounts, and then we have basically the one regular savings or high yield savings option. Next slide, please. So what exactly are the benefits? The whole main point of ABLE accounts is people with disabilities are allowed to save money without affecting their benefits. So it goes beyond that $2,000 cap that people are held to, basically just keeping people impoverished. So I want to move on to a little bit some numbers here. So let's go on to the next slide, please. So with the, like I said, that $2,000 cap, people can't really live like that or live on that. So able accounts allows individuals, if the person is not working, the beneficiary or the individual with the disability is not working, they can actually have contributions up to $17,000 a year, and those contributions can come from anywhere. However, if the beneficiary is employed, that person may contribute up to an additional 13,590 of their wages, which now brings their maximum contribution beyond that 15,000 to 30,000 plus. So as you can see, that's a drastic difference from that $2,000 cap. Next slide, please. So, one of the main caveats is that ABLE funds must be used on qualified disability expenses. Qualified disability expenses are any expenses, or first of all, it must relate to the individual with the disability. It must relate to their disability, and it also must help them maintain or improve their health, independence, or quality of life. These are just some typical examples that people usually use their ABLE funds on: education, housing, transportation. Transportation can be saving for a car, buying a car, catching a Lyft, a self-driving car, an Uber, hopping on a light rail, hopping on the bus. It goes, it can be used various ways. Healthcare, assisted technology, employment needs, basic living expenses, and many more. When I say many more, there's really not, the IRS classifies qualified disability expenses is very broad. As long as it's helping that person live their best life, then, they're going to be okay. Um, as long as people can explain like how's relating to their disability and how's helping them live their best life, they're going to be fine. It really doesn't matter what they spend their ABLE funds on. I've had a gentleman who, purchased some streaming music for his son who has autism. That certainly relates to his disability, and he loved music, so it's helping him live the best life, and contributing to his happiness and contributing to his mental health. I've had people ask me about a vacation. That's very, very much so a possibility. We all know that a great vacation can help us with our mental health. So these are just some typical, like I said, examples, but it goes beyond that. Another nice thing with ABLE accounts is that the earnings on these accounts, they grow tax free, and they're not subject to any federal income tax as long as they're spent on qualified disability expenses. I can say one typical thing that tell people to stay away from is, like, gambling. That really doesn't relate to your disability or helping someone live their best life. I mean, of course, if they win money, but they risk of those, of that particular whatever they spent their money on to gamble, they're risking that of it possibly being counted as a resource. So that's just a little small example of what I would typically tell people that is not considered or hard to explain, that it can be a qualified disability expense. Next slide. So who is eligible? Let's talk about eligibility. So the first main caveat with ABLE accounts is that a person has to have a disability that began or had an onset of their disability prior to turning the age of 26. Not necessarily being diagnosed, but a development. Just a quick example: you can have a young man, let's say he's 30 years old, he goes to the doctor, he feels like he's going through some type of mental health crisis. He goes to see the doctor at 30 years old. The doctor tells him, um, you know, diagnosis at that time at 30 years old and say, hey, you actually have a mental disorder, and your mental disorder began when you was 25. He would meet that first main eligibility criteria because he had a development of his disability prior to him turning the age of 26, even though he was diagnosed at the age of 30. So that's the main criteria. Then in additional, the individual must also be have or do one of the following: be eligible for SSI or SSDI due to a disability, Number 2, have a condition listed on Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances conditions. Or number 3, self-certification. Self-certification is typically when, like the example I just used, someone goes in, the doctor diagnoses them of a physical or mental impairment. Usually those um, conditions are listed within Social Security Administration's Blue Book. And that's what I typically tell people to just Google. And they're just certifying that a doctor or a licensed physician has diagnosed them with a condition that's listed in SSA's Blue Book. So having a disability occurring before 26 and then being having one of those 3, that is who is eligible. We do have a nice little eligibility quiz at az-able.com/eligibility. The quiz is very easy. We had a young lady who actually went on, took the quiz. She actually had only one finger and she signed up for her account in 20 minutes. Usually 19 minutes, sorry. Usually we tell people it's typical sign up is 20 minutes, but this young lady signed up in 19 minutes, which, shows how easy the website is to navigate it. There's no legal jargon, so people are not going to get confused. And a lot of it is just a click of a button and you're just self-certifying. Now, with someone does self-certify, they don't have to have or turn in their diagnosis or anything like that. They're just going to self-certify that they have been diagnosed or they have a development of their disability prior to them turning the age of 26. I just want to throw it out there that comes in the year 2026, we have been working hard on something called the Able Age Adjustment Act. And actually that age of 26 is going to go up to 46 in the year 2026. So just remember in the year 2026, the age of onset is going to go up to 46. We have been working on that for at least 5 or 6 years, and Congress finally passed it the end of last year, coming up on a year ago. Next slide, please. So we do have a nice little card that people are able to get, which is called the Stable Card. It is a loadable debit card, which means you actually have to log into your account and move money onto the card. And that's primarily for protection reasons. If someone is trying to, for example, trying to teach their child how to be fiscally responsible, they can only load only a certain amount on the card for a night out with their friends or something like that. And it does has a nice little Visa logo on there and a security chip, so it can be used anywhere Visa is accepted. Next slide, please. So how do you enroll? So the account can be opened by a qualifying person with a disability, which is a beneficiary, or a parent, someone with legal guardianship, someone with power of attorney, and others. Others can include a sibling, a spouse, a rep payee. The list goes on and on and on. But there is the list. If you go on our website, the list is in priority. So for example, the last person on the list or the possible entity on the list is a Social Security representative. They're last on the list. So, for example, the first on the list is like a parent or a legal guardian. So, if a parent, a legal guardian, or someone with POA, and the sibling, the grandparent, and whomever, all those individuals that are before that Social Security rep payee can't administer the account on behalf of the beneficiary, then the rep payee can. So there's a priority list when it comes to who's able to administer an account on behalf of a beneficiary. Online enrollment is free. All ABLE accounts are administered online. Someone cannot go to a bank. They would have no idea what you're talking about. For AZ ABLE, we do require a minimum opening deposit of $25. And like I said, account is online at az-able.com, and you can't go to a bank, so no bank trips are necessary. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, so that's it. Yes, because I was on limited time today. So I guess Dee Dee, we can, I don't know if we had any questions pop up. But you can certainly ask any questions right now in the chat.
Brittany, thank you. That was very concise and quick. And we do have some time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. So I greatly appreciate you providing this information for
Of
our
course.
participants here today. I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
Um, it seems that your qualified expenses are very broad, so that's great. Is there has there ever been a request to cover an expense that has been denied? Or if they have any questions, should they check with their able representative first?
No, I have never heard of anyone getting denied. The thing is that even though certain things can be qualified as a non-qualified disability expense, people can still spend their money on whatever they want to. They just possibly have the risk of that expense possibly counted as a resource. But benefit agencies, the IRS, no one can say what someone can and cannot spend their funds on, but they have to understand that they possibly have the risk of it, being considered or counted as a resource or like some type of tax penalty. But I haven't heard of anything. Usually, like I said, tell people to stay away from gambling. I usually tell people to stay away, like a cash gift. So like taking money out of your account and just gifting it to someone, as long as someone is able to classify that this is helping them live their best life and it relates to their disability, then they're going to be fine. But I haven't had, the only time I have heard of possible, someone getting questioned about their expenses is if, for example, if someone has like a rep payee, or if someone's not administering their own account and someone else is administering an account on their behalf, and it may be some transactions that may be a little bit questionable, then some a benefit agency can ask, like, just to make sure people are not getting exploited or taken advantage of. But other than that, I haven't heard of anything.
Thank you. And thank you for providing your email in the chat. And we
Yes.
also, the presentation again will be on the MAG website. Billy Parker said, are you willing to share your presentation slides that we can post on our website?
Definitely. I can get it over to you guys, and yeah, I can certainly post a full presentation on there, because it's a
Okay.
little bit more interesting, a little bit more in-depth information. This was, like you said, Didi, very precise and quick because we have limited time. And then if anyone have any questions, certainly, like, I enter my email, just shoot me an email and I will certainly get back to you.
Thank you, Brittany. Definitely, her presentation is a little bit longer with a lot more information. Thank you for making that available to our
Of
participants,
course.
and we can definitely have that posted on our website.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. You guys take care.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. We will definitely get that posted on our website. We will make sure that the whole tab presentation is available to you after our meeting. I would like to now go on to our next agenda item, and it will be updates from Valley Metro. Again, Valley Metro Public Transit is an available resource if it is appropriate for you or your consumers to take. We're great to have a great partnership with Valley Metro, offering these updates on their services and a couple of different projects that they're working on. So I'd like to welcome Guillermo Gonzalez, Trevor Eversole, and Justin, I'm going to have to move my screen a little bit to see his last name, Sheldon, to provide Valley Metro updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, our coworker, Justin Sheldon, I was going to introduce him, but he is in another meeting at this time. But Trevor and I are here to answer any questions. Next slide, please. Going straight into ridership, as you can see, our bus ridership has somewhat leveled off. We are within that 17 to 1.7 to 2.1 million range. It is maintaining steadiness with a little increased blip in August. Our rail, we did get that increase in ridership in August as well, but mainly we are maintaining ourselves in the mid 700s. With streetcar, as you can see, August had a major blip. The reason for that is ASU is back in session. So because ASU is back in session and streetcar runs all through there, that is the major blip you have in August for streetcar, bumping up from the high 30s, low 40s to 85,000. With paratransit, we've maintained it pretty steady. August did have a little blip, but those are preliminary numbers. But overall, we are maintaining steady with paratransit. Right choice, on the other hand, is on a steady increase. It's steadily increasing year after year. So we are very excited about right choice. Next slide, please. So construction updates. Next slide. So the light rail extension for the Northwest Valley Extension Phase 2, the light rail extension will extend from Valley Metro's existing line from 19th and Dunlap Avenues to the former Metro Center Mall area. The line includes a rail-only bridge over I-17 to the elevated platform near the former Metro Center Mall area. This project includes 3 stations, including our first elevated station, a multi-level park and ride garage, as well as a transit center below the elevated platform. And we are still on track to open this extension in early 2024. So that's pretty exciting. Next slide. As stated in the previous slide, we are on the home stretch of this project as it is about 95% complete. There's 3 stations are also near completion, and there is still some artwork being installed. Final configuration on Dunlap Avenue is also underway. The train testing began September 19th. Testing ensures that the track's power and communication systems are installed and functioning properly. Later this year, the testing will also include operator training and a simulated service to test the operating schedule. A joint safety exercise with Phoenix Fire, DPS, ADOT is scheduled for in October. And we're still on track, like I mentioned before, to open early 2024. Next slide, please. The South Central Extension Downtown Hub. This will connect the current light rail system in downtown Phoenix that operates south to and will operate south to Baseline Road on Central Avenue. This line will connect to the existing rail line in downtown Phoenix and the future Capitol extension once the alternative route is chosen. This creates a transit hub in downtown Phoenix that will service Valley Metro's first 2 rail lines. So we're going to have 2 rail lines now. This project is 5.5 miles and includes 8 stations and 2 park and rides. 18 artists have created artwork for this alignment. The opening date is looking like mid-2025, in part due to material workforce shortages and greater than anticipated utility and archaeological work. But we remain focused and maximizing on the schedule where we can, by the end of 2024, feel like it would be a completed project. While this is considered once project, we wanted to break updates for you on South Central Extension and the Downtown Hub. And we're going to start with the Downtown Hub. Once finished, the South Central Extension Downtown Hub extension will be the largest extension since the initiation of light rail. So this will be the longest patch of rail that we put down in one project. Next station. Sorry, next slide. The Central Transit Hub in the heart of downtown between Washington and Jefferson Streets. So this hub will enhance the connections between our current downtown light rail system and the South Central Extension and our future capital extension. The hub will service 2 rail lines, which will be the first for Valley Metro. This portion of the extension does include 3 station platforms on the north, south, and east side of Cityscape, but the downtown hub is considered also 1 station. So there'll be upgrades to all of that. Next slide, please. Much of the construction progress was made ahead of the Super Bowl, so it looks closer to completion than our South Central line. Our work installations continue. Our canopies at platforms will be installed in the coming months. Crews are currently focusing on section platform work, train controls and signal systems, landscaping traffic signals, artwork installations, and cityscape pedestrian bridge work. With the exception of the track at 3rd Avenue, the respective signal room and final light rail communication signal systems will be substantially completed and close to activating and testing the new system. Some system testing, not train testing, just to be clear, it's the system testing, should begin in the coming months. Next slide, please. The South Central extension will provide a critical connection for South Phoenix residents to downtown Phoenix, the East Valley, and future west expansion. This portion of the alignment includes 2 park and rides and 7 stations. Once finished, the extension will be the largest extension since the initiation of light rail. Next slide, please. Right now, the utility relocation, roadway work, and substation work are going along the alignment. Track installation and platform work are starting up. Track work on the Salt River Bridge has begun, and track work will begin in the next couple of months. Construction will also begin on the 2nd roundabout along the alignment. That will begin as well as an intersection paving. In the next several months, we will start seeing station platforms and tracks along the alignment, which is a major milestone. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry about that. That picture kind of took away a bit of what was put there. On August 1st, the Governor Hobbs signed Senate Bill 1102, which is legislation that enables the extension of Prop 400, Section Bill 1102, which includes language prohibiting the construction of the Capitol extension adjacent to the state capitol's legislative and executive buildings as previously approved. The city of Phoenix and Valley Metro are committed to extending the light rail west to Desert Sky Transit Center. We will work with the city and Federal Transit Administration and neighboring communities to assess route alternatives and develop a locally preferred alternative that serves community goals and connects with the future of I-10 West light rail extension projects. The project team will present proposed alternative route options for the community input later this year or early 2024. Next slide. The fare collection system modernization project. Next slide, please. So our current fare collection was installed in the beginning of 2007. This includes fare boxes and board buses, and shortly after ticket vending machines, both of which offer quite outdated technology in today's environment, and we will have reached the end of their useful life shortly. Over the last several years, we have worked in collaboration with our city partners in the region, conducting market research and several workshops to really define the new technology and benefits for our customers. Our top goals for the project were to offer better payment options for our riders with enhanced features such as fare capping and mobile ticketing, improved data collection for our most important metrics such as ridership and revenue, and have true point of sale control over reduced fare media, linking reduced fare IDs to passengers' smart card, something we don't have today. This will have a great impact in reducing the amount of fare abuse we see today. Our new system will get us there. Today's system, we see folks that don't qualify for reduced fare eligibility purchasing reduced fare passes. In the future, any customer wishing to purchase reduced fare must go through an eligibility process through Valley Metro, showing ID and relevant documentation that will prove reduced fare eligibility. That ID will also, and an ID will also be issued. We also wanted to phase the project in, such as a way to result a smoother transition for our customers moving with our legacy system to the new solution. Next slide, please. Some of the key project milestones. In July, we expedited the mobile app. In February, we had mobile fare. In fall of 2023, reduced fare web application. So what's going to happen here in 2023, we're going to have people be eligible to apply for reduced fare via online. So that's something new that's coming up. And in 2024 is when phase 2 and phase 3 will take effect. Next slide, please. Phase 2 is basically we're going to be issuing our new copper card, which will be reloadable, which will be based, which will also be a smart card, meaning that the fare is going to be capped. Fare capping is something new that we have that's going to be available to our customers, where right now a customer can purchase a 1-day pass, a 1-week pass, a 2-week pass, or a month pass. With fare capping, when a customer reaches the month of fares for a monthly fare, they don't have to pay anymore. So they wouldn't have to pay more than what they're actually using it for. So that's going to help our customers get more rides out of their pocket. And then phase 3 will be the new fare boxes on our buses. All right, next slide. Any questions regarding that? I know it was a lot of information. No? All right, next slide. Valley Metro Accessibility Advisory Group. Our advisory group is slowly getting bigger, and it is an opportunity for seniors, people with disabilities, and advocates of seniors or people with disabilities to really learn and take part and help us make sure our system remains accessible or improves its accessibility. This accessibility is for all of our services. It includes our webpage, our actual transit systems, our bus stops, anything that has to do with our systems, anywhere from our brochures to our educational pieces to our announcements and touch-tone phones. So we really hope that we can maybe get people to apply for Valley Metro Advisory Group. Next slide, please. Who can join? As I mentioned before, it consists of a 15-member group, and people, seniors 65 and older, can apply. A person with a disability, or a caregiver of a person with a disability or senior. Also employees that work with people with disabilities or seniors. We ask that they are transit riders. We're looking for people to ride various modes of transportation, so we get a holistic group to get better information when it comes in regards to accessibility. One of the examples I like to use currently right now is we did have a few members of our accessibility group go out to the Northwest Extension, and they wanted us to test some wayfinding options. So we had some members go that had vision impairments, and it turned out that they were unable to find the wayfinding. So the wayfinding that was proposed did not work. And because of VMAG, we were able to catch that problem before it was completely installed on our whole rail system during the extension. So that just goes to show you how vital Valley Metro Accessibility Advisory Group is, and how important the group is for the accessibility of our system. Next slide, please. So how would you apply? You can apply via our website at valleymetro.org/accessibility/advisory group. Or if you have any questions regarding that or want to find a link, you can always send an email to VMAG, VMAAG valleymetro.org. Next slide. Any questions?
Thank
All
you, Guillermo. Yes, definitely. If you have any questions, if you want to place them in the chat or raise your hand, that'd be great. I just also want to make another plug for VMAG. Um, this is definitely a great opportunity for you or your consumers to be a part of the process. The new programs, the new initiatives that Valley Metro is undertaking, as Guillermo said, they do present that at VMAG, and actually. The app that Guillermo was talking about, they have presented that prior to VMAG to get their feedback and to get their comments. So this is such a great opportunity to be part of the process, like I said. So thank you, Guillermo, for that information. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Thank you. And as I stated again, Valley Metro is a great partner. Public transit is a transportation option if it's appropriate that you or your consumers can take. And we always appreciate these updates and the enhancements that you're making to the public transportation program. So thank you, Guillermo and Valley Metro. Okay, before we go to our next agenda item, I have another polling question, if we can pull that up. And that is, our next polling question is, are you a Section 5310 subrecipient representative? Yes, no, or but we'll like more information. So I will give you a couple of seconds. And again, I appreciate everybody for participating in these polling surveys. Okay, and wow, I think this is the first time almost 100% of you here today are Section 5310 subrecipients. So that's quite, wow, that's very surprising. We do have a couple that are not, and we welcome you. And definitely, this is a community meeting, and we try to offer resources for all of our stakeholders. So our next presenter is our designated recipient for the Section 5310 program. I would now like to introduce Wendy Miller, who is the Federal Grants Administrator with the City of Phoenix Public Transit Department, and again, our designated recipient who will provide updates on the Section 5310 program. And it's very appropriate because almost 100% of the people here are subrecipients. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Well, with all of this attention being on our 5310 program, my presentation today is super, super short. It's just more of a kind of wrap up of what we've done the last couple of months and then what we're looking forward to the future in regards to subrecipient training. So we were on a little bit of a hiatus with our regular training just because it fell off our calendar. And we just scheduled the 2023 and 2024 trainings kind of sent out. I haven't booked them all, but thanks, Hezekiah, for pulling that up. This is the training schedule. Back in August, we went over vehicle maintenance reviews. And these are timed as such to prep you for when things are coming up in the program. So our vehicle maintenance reviews were to cover to make sure those that have vehicles are ready for our milestone progress reports. And then the milestone progress report training, going over to how to fill out those reports that are due on this year on October 16th. And then once that wraps up, we move into October where we're doing the subrecipient grant kickoff training. And that subrecipient grant training is just more for new subrecipients that are just doing our grant process for the first time, where your post-award process starts out where the grant is being applied for through the Federal Transit Administration, not your pre-application and selection for award, but we actually then go in and update all that and get it finalized with FTA. And then we do our grant pass-through agreements with you. So it kind of goes over the first steps in the post-award process for newer grantees or people that haven't. Your agency may have been experienced at doing this for years, but maybe you're a new staff person and you want the details. We're going to go over that. And then in November, hopefully, once all the grants are awarded, people are ready to start submitting reimbursements for operating assistance, preventive maintenance, or for their mobility management. We're going to do a reimbursement training. So again, those aren't really for folks that just get vehicles and things like that. It's for people with regular reimbursements that they submit for operating and other capital like mobility management. In December, we give you a month off. And then in January, we try to do a soup to nuts review of everything 5310 to give you kind of an overview of what the program looks like for those that are getting ready to apply. And then take a little break in February because, gosh, all of you guys are working on your grant applications. We don't want to overburden you. And then starting in March, then we'll do the ADA compliance training. And so that's handled by our compliance staff that do want to make sure that you know about the ADA requirements, that your plan is up to date, that your website and all of the forms that you need to have on there, all of those things are up to date, that you have your signs posted in your vehicle. So everything related to Title VI, ADA, etc., all of that is in March. Take another break in April, and we kind of leave those slotted. We could do like other things if people really needed something mid-year, but we don't have anything scheduled for those times. And then everybody's favorite, which is coming up a lot these days, is vehicle disposal training. And I feel like I do these trainings individually with agencies who are ready to dispose of their vehicles, but I try to touch base and give that out to everyone. And then the full compliance review training happens in June. So that's a look behind for the last couple months and a look ahead for the next year of the trainings that we have scheduled. We try to do our best to make sure that everybody's up to date with all of their information and answer your questions. But of course, as per usual, we're here for you all the time. And if you have any questions in the interim about any of these parts of the process or the process in general, all you have to do is give me a call or send an email to section 5310@phoenix.gov, and staff will be there to respond to your questions. And with that, that's my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Wendy, for that information. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to write it in the chat or to raise your hand. Definitely, it is really important, and we are very happy that the City of Phoenix has developed this training schedule for our subrecipients. It's very informative. So we have a question. Wendy, are all trainings between 10 and 11 a.m.?
That's usually when we try to shoot for them. Not too early, not too late, get it over in the day. I tried to do them kind of around the same time of the month, but as you know, when you do like, okay, we're going to do it on the third Thursday, you're always contending with Thanksgiving, and it kind of gets off schedule. So, and some of the other folks that are like our compliance team that are doing the trainings, they do them kind of when it's convenient for their staff. So it changes a little bit, but mostly I try to stick with the second or third Thursday of the month and at 10 to 11 a.m. So great question.
Thank you. Another question from Cynthia is, are trainings recorded and available at a later date to watch?
I absolutely am trying to remember to record them. And I did record this recent one that we just did for the milestone progress reports. And if you send a request to section 5310@phoenix.gov requesting the recording, I'm happy to send that out to you. So yes, It is in a format of a WebEx recording. So I believe you might have to be in WebEx to view it. I'm not the IT guru, so we'll work with you. If it doesn't work, if we send it out and it's not viewable or you're having difficulty, we can definitely work that out. But we do record them, yes.
Thank you, Wendy. And I just wanted to make a comment that having recording and having the recordings in a format that is watchable is a little extensive. And I'd like to thank Ezekias, who does do some editing after our meetings. And it would be available the next day, but it does take some time. So we understand.
So as a little bit of a joke, what I'm hearing you say is that if I can't figure out and we can't watch our training videos, Hezekiah knows the trick and we can contact him.
I, I'm sure Ezekias is aware of this. I
we,
usually volunteer him. So
we love to put him on the spot, but
yeah, definitely.
well, thanks everybody. Any more questions?
Okay. See
No.
no questions. And as always, City of Phoenix has made the 5310 email available to us. If you have any questions later on, if you would like to forward it to us or to Phoenix 5310 directly, feel free to. Thank you, Wendy. We appreciate your update.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item, I would like to set up our next polling question. And the question is, if you are an volunteer agency or an agency that uses volunteers, do you currently have enough volunteers to support your program? Yes, we do. No, we do not have enough volunteers, or you don't use volunteers but would like more information. I'll give you a couple of seconds. And I am going to repeat myself. I would just like to thank everybody for participating in our polling questions. And we do have the results. 48 of you say you do not use volunteers, but we have really close to 40% of you who would be interested in finding more information regarding the utilization of volunteers. And we do have 15% of you who do use volunteers. So thank you for that. Our next agenda this next agenda items is where we like to highlight and spotlight the great work that all of your organizations are doing for our community. I would also like to add that MAC staff, we're scheduling agency visits. This gives us an opportunity to meet with your program agency face to face and see the programs that you offer and let you know and how we can support your program. And it really gives us the opportunities to see the great work that you are doing. And it always amazes us as a kids and I of how much work you do, how many programs you offer to our community. An agency we recently visited was Astor Aging, and they also utilize volunteer programs. So I am pleased to have with us today and like to introduce to you Scott Mueller, who will provide an overview of Astor Aging. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Really happy to be here. And thanks for everyone for listening. So Astor Aging, we serve a population typically 60 years or older in 5 core programs. The basic program is we have 2 centers. They are community centers where individuals who again are 60 years or older can come and participate in all kinds of classes. We have classes that range from Tai Chi, other types of movement classes, to things that are more game-based, such as pretty much any card game you can think of. We also offer what's called congregate meals, And all of these services are pretty much for free. There are a few instructors who charge a couple dollars here and there for attendance to a class, but the vast majority of the things that we offer are free. Our participants are encouraged, they can donate money if they choose to, but they certainly don't have to. Our congregate meal is served around 11 o'clock, and we typically have between 30 and 40 individuals at both of our centers, really. And it is the same type of meal that we use when we participate in one of our other programs, which is Meals on Wheels. I think a lot of people know what Meals on Wheels is. I had an idea of what it was before I started to work here, and then I realized how complex it was. Meals on Wheels is a very intricate program in that the meal preparation and the choice of the meal and the acquiring of all the food is actually pretty intricate. It goes through a number of nutritionists to make sure that it has all the nutrients that individuals would want in a hot meal. We do upwards of 500 meals a day using about 23 routes and I'd say roughly like 15 or 16 drivers. One of the things that's really nice about this Meals on Wheels program is that our drivers, we call them monitors, because for a lot of the people that we serve, the driver or monitor is the only person that's going to see them on a daily basis. We typically deliver 5 days a week. And so if an individual is having any kind of a problem, if it looks as though their house has come into disrepair or even their health appears to be faltering, we have enough experience with that individual that we can notice that and we can make the appropriate calls to give them help. And to that point, the city of Mesa, where we're located, is one of the older cities in Maricopa County. We have approximately 200,000 residents who are at least 60 years of age. In comparison, cities like Gilbert, Chandler, et cetera, their average age is typically 3-4 years younger. We also have a pretty fair amount of seniors who are closer to the poverty line, which again is why we have such a large Meals on Wheels program. One of the other programs that we offer is outreach and social services. It's also, all of our programs are kind of linked in that if someone who's delivering meals notices that their participant is in need of assistance with electricity bills, assisting with utility bills, assisting with housing, anything like that, they'll come back and report that to our outreach. So we have 3 social workers here who work on with our participants in finding resources for them. We also have 4 interns at this time, and so they can assist to a degree. Another program that we have is called Neighbors. Neighbors is a program where we have volunteers who will assist our senior population in getting to important appointments. Things like doctor's appointments, being able to go to the grocery store, being able to go to the pharmacy. It is a very volunteer-dependent program, and I was really pleased that you brought up you had that polling question of, do you use volunteers and do you have enough? I would love to meet an agency that has enough, and I'd like to learn how they got them. One of the things that we are struggling with post-COVID is bringing volunteers back. And so much of what we do is volunteer-based. Another program, so in addition to sort of the trips part of Neighbors, there's also what we call friendly phone calls. And that is to assist some of our participants in battling probably the second greatest issue that individuals 60 years and older face, which is loneliness. And COVID really increased that quite a bit. And so what our volunteers do is they will call individuals, just check on them, make sure that they're doing okay, and have a brief conversation with them. They can do it as often as they like, um, and there is really no minimum. It's something that can be very helpful in trying to make sure that individuals who are so isolated have at least some degree of connection. Another part of the Neighbors program, which just started about a year ago, we noticed that a number of our participants were, when they received their meal from home delivered meals or Meals on Wheels, they were giving about half of it to their pet. And that's pretty common. I mean, these are, our pets are very dear to us. And if it is the only other thing in your home, it's practically like it's a family member. And so instead of allowing that to happen, we were able to reach out and establish a pets program, and that we can deliver pet food, dog food, both dry and wet, cat food, and kitty litter once a month to our participants. And last year, we served about 150 dogs and cats on our caseload. And so that kind of wraps up Neighbors. We do have an in-home program as well that does provide services like attendant care and housekeeping and things like that. It's still fairly small. Unfortunately, the demand is massive, and we would love to be able to find more people to fill that program as well. Let's see. Final program that we have is we are somewhat affiliated with some of the independent living centers around us. Specifically, there's a low-income housing area called Encore, and then there is an independent living facility called Discovery Point. And we assist in providing activities for both locations and transportation as well, which is why we were so excited about being able to be part of 5310. It's something that's very exciting for us to be able to assist people, because I would say if for individuals again who are 60 years and older, probably at least easily within the top 5 issues that are faced by this population is transportation. It's probably top 3. And so we're able to assist them with some of their transportation needs as well, in sort of somewhat of a group setting in which we'll take 5 or 6 people out to run errands and things like that at both locations. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. For like kind of location information, we are more East Valley. Specifically, we really try and target folks in Mesa. We do assist a few folks in Gilbert and Chandler. But primarily Mesa is kind of our stomping grounds. We're right off a University and Center, and then we are at the Red Mountain Multi-Generational Center, which is about 10 miles east of my specific location, which is kind of Central Mesa. But very happy to answer any questions that anyone has, and I want to thank everybody for what you all do and for letting me come here and talk a little bit about Astor.
Thank you, Scott. Like I said, we did mention that we did, Ezekiel and I did take a visit to your agency, and we did take a look at your programs. And it's always amazing how much of the community comes to to all of your programs and get the services that they need. And as you mentioned, just that one-on-one contact, especially in the environment that we're still moving out of today, is so important. And you brought up a really good question, and at the results of our volunteer polling question too, is that volunteers are a great resource, but we're seeing not only across the state, but also nationally, that there is a need of volunteers for all programs. So we would, Max, has part of the topics that we research, we would like to look into any resources that we can to help with volunteers, providing volunteer information, but also looking at strategies to gather more volunteers. So thank you, Scott.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And not only are agencies filling the need of volunteers, but also staffing, we've heard, has been an issue for many organizations. So our next polling question before we get on to our next agenda item is your agency at full staffing capacity? And this is for all programs throughout your agency. So it's not just only for your transportation program. But the question is your agency at full staffing capacity for all of your programs? Again, thank you for taking your time to answer these polling questions. And again, these polling questions help us to direct where we should be looking at, what topics should we be looking at to provide you resources. Okay. Unfortunately, it is pretty much kind of what we're seeing all over is that 80% of you have said no, that you are not at full staffing capacity. But the good news is 20% are saying yes. So thank you for that information. I would now like to go on to the next agenda item, and that's the Regional Human Services Transportation Updates. And next slide. I have a couple of updates. I would like to talk about the Section 5310 regional application process, some changes to our regional service areas. I would like to provide a reminder about coordination participation requirements and something that we are thinking of regarding staff recognition. Now, for the first item is the Section 5310 application process. As Wendy has noted, we're still working on the process. Those that were awarded in 2023, you will be receiving your contracts in October. But while all of this is happening, City of Phoenix, it was very busy this summer doing compliancy, check-ins, and MAC staff was busy preparing for the next application process. So we are moving forward to the next 2024 Section 5310 application process. Section 5310 is a yearly competitive process in the MAG region. And there will be a couple of changes that we are going to introduce. Last year, our apportionments for this region, for the Phoenix Mesa urbanized area, was at approximately 4.5 million, which was quite a jump from 2 years ago when we were at 3.4 million. So we had quite a jump that is available in a portion. We anticipate the amount to go up some more. Usually we probably be looking at 5.6 million for the next process. Again, I just wanted to let everybody know our application is anticipated to be kicked off at the beginning of the year in January. Our committee will meet, finalize the application process and timeline, and we hope to roll out the application in the end of January. If you want to keep looking at our website, we will update our timeline and our meeting dates on that. One other change I want to bring up was the regional service areas. Next slide. This is where most of you, almost all of you, are Section 5010 subrecipients. This map should be pretty familiar with you. In the last process, we worked off of this map. For those that are applying in the Phoenix Mesa UZA, you apply to the MAG City of Phoenix application process, and that is the area outlined in blue. And then in the Sandy area and the orange area, the the Arizona Department of Transportation coordinated and programmed the Section 5310 process. In 2020, there was a U.S. census conducted, and the results of that census and the population actually affects our service planning area. And with the outcome and results of the census, the service area for our program has changed, is will be cha is changed. If you can go to the next slide, please. So due to the census, what we found when the next slide comes up is that now the white area, the Arizona Department of Transportation will still coordinate and program the Section 5310 area. The change comes in is in the greenish area, and that is now a designated urban area, and it is now called the Phoenix West Goodyear Avondale area. And the blue area, we have a name change, and the service area has expanded a little bit. These are draft maps. The U.S. Department of Transportation still has to confirm the maps. There is typically a 1 mile buffer along the outlines of these maps, but this is what the new changes look like. What that also means is that now the Phoenix West, what we're calling PWGA, because it is now designated as an urban area, they will get apportioned 5310 funds for that area, just like the Phoenix Mesa, now Scottsdale urban area gets apportioned that 5.4. The Phoenix West, the PWGA, will get an apportioned amount for Section 5310, the Section 5310 program. Also, the change is that the green area, the PWGA, can designate a change to their designated recipient. And we anticipate that change will be to the city of Phoenix. So both the blue area that you have before you and the green area, we anticipate for the Section 5310 application process that potential applicants will apply through the MAG Phoenix area. I know this is this is a lot of information to take in, but definitely to help with that, MAG staff would like to reach out to any agencies in the Phoenix West area, and we are more than happy to come and provide additional information and present at any committee meetings about the Section 5310 program. Does anybody have any questions regarding this? Okay. Again, and I will continue to bring more information as we start confirming and finalizing the maps for you. The next item I would like to move on to is a reminder. Okay, it's a reminder that for the Section 5310 program, that participating in coordination efforts is a federal requirement. We, such as attending these TAP meetings, this is part of meeting that federal requirement. We also have some committees that not only attend all of our TAP meetings, but also attend our workshops, our trainings, our focus groups, and that is meeting the goal of the Section 5310 program and FTA's requirements. So I like to add, note that MAG and the City of Phoenix has a DER. We will be reviewing, and as we always have been reviewing, subrecipients' participation efforts in this program because it is a federal requirement. And for this next upcoming process, we will be providing more guidance on what that participation efforts will look like during our next application process and what we are expecting from our subrecipients. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? Okay. The next item I would like to add is we are very appreciative of all of the work that you do in supporting the most vulnerable of our population. And we are noticing the great programs, that you're providing, and sometimes with short staff, And so we are looking at recognizing your efforts. So I will be providing more information at the next TAP meeting, but we would like to start a program um, where we're recognizing the drivers of your organization. And we would like to do a TAP recognition to the drivers in your organizations that you would self-select. So I will be providing more information on this, but again, it's just our way of recognizing the great work that you do and sometimes at minimal staff that you have on hand. So that will be coming up and I will be providing more information at the next TAP meeting. Okay, our next agenda item is our mobility managers updates. And before we go on to that, we have our next polling question, and that is your agency at full, does your agency have enough drivers for the transportation trips you provide to your consumers? Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. And again, thank you for taking our polling questions. Okay, so does your agency have enough drivers for the transportation trips you provide to your consumers? 41% of you say yes. Um, uh, Unfortunately, 52% of you say no. And 7% said you do not provide transportation to your consumers. So thank you so much for answering these questions at the last TAP meeting, and this kind of follows up with the questions that we asked at the last TAP meeting. At the last TAP meeting, we had asked a polling question if your agency was open at full capacity in the process or other, and 42% of you said you were open. 50% said you were in the process, and surprisingly, a few agencies didn't have any changes, but you did revise how you were offering your programs. As you've continued to provide programs for the most vulnerable in our community, and transportation is transportation is really important for you to get your consumers to the programs that you offer. Our last question, oh, excuse me, I just lost my train. I lost my talking points. And these questions lead into our next topic and to our next agenda items. At our last TAP meeting, we did something different. We broke into two groups. We had two discussion groups. We had one group discussing fleets and trainings, and the other one was just talking about staffing and policies. Both of these groups had really great conversations, and actually we were a little short on time because the conversation kept going. But we noted when we went back to debrief about how well the breakout groups went, we noticed two things, two major things. One is that both groups had a lot of comments to make. And that the first feedback that we received from you is that there wasn't enough time, and we understand that. And because conversation was still continuing. The second thing that we noted was that in both of the breakout groups, it all came back to staffing, the staffing topic. So in response to the feedback and the comments that you made, we are trying a little something differently for the mobility managers update agenda items. So and now we're going to have an open kind of a focus group, open forum to talk about staffing and to talk about some resources, some challenges, and to get your feedback and comment on that. So for the remainder of the time, I would like to introduce Ezekias back to you again to lead us into this next agenda item. So thank you.
Thank you, Didi. All right, so as Didi was mentioning, we were talking about the issues, and we've put in that in the polls today about the issues of staffing, recruitment, and retention of your drivers and staffing in general. And I was fortunate to participate on a workshop at the Community Transportation Administration Association um, um, Expo in Oklahoma City about this very topic. And in there, one of the experts did a research of transportation providers in the entire nation to see what were some best practices and things that could improve the retention and recruitment of drivers to improve the quality of the services that you provide and also to make sure that you are at the full capacity and providing all the services that you have available on your agencies. And they came up with six um, uh, topics of best practices for your transportation program related to hiring and retention. And I want to go over a little bit of them. So these are the six tips to improve recruitment and driver recruitment and retention. So the first topic that they went over was improving driver working conditions. And in this tip, they do break it down in a little bit more detail on ways that you can do to improve driver working conditions. Things that they saw that were efficient in helping the retention and also on the recruitment of drivers were making sure that you have policies that keep your drivers, you have procedures that keep your drivers updated on the policies and procedures of your agency. Improving vehicle conditions and work environment. That could be rest areas, that could be the other areas that drivers have to deal with the vehicle, maybe the where you park your vehicles, as well as the vehicles themselves. Are they clean? Are they well maintained? Are the drivers feeling safe of driving that vehicle? Improving dispatcher support was also a topic that improved recruitment and retention, as well as the opportunities for driver feedback. Drivers want to be heard, and they are the experts, right, on driving your consumers around. And they see things that your dispatch and supervisors might not see or notice. So it's important to have a proper channel for them to provide feedback on their working conditions, as well as training opportunities for them to improve on their driving skills, as well as the last topic for improving their condition, the work conditions was improving complaints, investigations, and mediations. So when there is a feedback or a complaint about something related to their work, that these complaints are properly resolved, investigated, and mediations are done properly. So keep that in mind when you are updating your recruitment and retention process as well. The second tip that they provided beyond improving the work conditions was innovative approaches. One of the most innovative approaches that they saw was the development of a mentor body program for new hires. Um, and they saw great power for retention and also for recruitment of new drivers by implementing these mentored body programs, which would be having one of your seasoned drivers or most senior drivers in the job to pair up them with new hires and offer this and show this program to your potential new hires. So they know that they will have the support of a seasoned driver while getting the ropes of the new job. And one of the things that they mentioned is that it's important for you as an organization to define if there is a monetary benefit for the mentors, which can be also a great way of now not just retaining the new hires, but also retaining your more seasoned drivers as well. The third tip of the six is develop a driver advisory committee. Maybe you have just a couple of drivers, but if you have more than a few drivers, it's important to have some type of advisory committee that they are able to voice the opinions and the concerns of them as a group, right? And if you have leadership meetings where they can voice their opinions and their concerns, that could be the leadership of your transportation program or the leadership of your organization in general. If you have meetings, having the driver input can be important. And the key takeaways from that third topic is that you need to define what is this committee purpose. Is this advisory on a lower leadership level or in the higher leadership level of your organization? And the most important part is how those recommendations from this driver advisory committee will be reviewed, listened to, and taken into account when doing the decision making of policies and procedures of your organizations. The fourth topic is company training and development. So focusing on the development of your drivers, not as a punishment, but as a reward. It's important that when you are having these mandatory trainings that they are not happening just because the driver failed to do something. We do understand, and this is something that the CTAA wanted to point out, is that we do understand that if your drivers are failing on some type of inspections or are receiving complaints, that they might need to do trainings, right, to refresh them on the skills that they may be failing. But that training should not only be a form of punishment, but also a form of reward. And in order for that to be rewarding, and for that program to work properly, one of the things that they indicate is that usually you want to dedicate about 2% of your each driver's salary, or about 40 hours annually of the driver's hours into training. And so keep that in mind when you're doing the budget for your trainings and also for your the driver salaries. The fifth topic was individual training and development. Now, not just looking at the large scale as all of the drivers and the training available as an agency, but how can you improve the individual needs of each driver specifically? And they suggested the development of an individual development plan for your drivers. This helps them to understand and point out to you what areas they are looking forward to develop as their skills as drivers and as a part of the staff of your organization. And if you have supervisors for your drivers, they should be trained to emphasize work and opportunities to drivers based on that individual development plan. So those plans should be curated individually for each one of your drivers, and someone should be following up and checking in, making sure that your drivers didn't just write those plans just for the sake of writing, but that they are keeping that in mind for their personal and professional growth. And lastly, a program for reward and recognition. And this ties in with what Didi was just mentioning at the end of her presentation about the updates that we are doing on our end. Is also having a way to reward and recognize your drivers is also a way to increase the retention of your drivers as well. Some of the things that they mention are good reward and recognition programs that are tried and proved. Are drivers without absence in a certain period can get some type of recognition or reward. You can also provide driver of the year rewards, peer recognition awards when drivers are the ones indicating which drivers should be getting award for the great work that they've been doing, and also years of service. For every year that they complete with your organization, they can get some type of reward and recognition as well. And lastly, they talked about the ABCD rewards, which is the above and beyond call of duty. This is usually when you get some type of comments from your consumers saying, hey, Didi was my driver today and she was great because she went above and beyond and did this and that for me that was beyond what my experience was with other drivers. That's a great opportunity for you as an organization to recognize the great work and that your drivers are going above and beyond to provide the great services to your consumers. So keep all of the six topics in mind when you're dealing with these issues of recruitment and retention of your drivers. And what is the big reason for you to think about all of that as you're updating your transportation program policies? It's because there is a big cost of dealing with employee turnover, and that is a cost that can be calculated. The CTAA used a very good calculator, and this again is based on a nationwide standard of the costs per driver. These numbers in gray, they are not specific numbers. They're just numbers that I put in this calculator just to see what would be the cost of having this amount of driver turnover for that salary, right? So if we're thinking of an annual wage of my drivers in this situation of $38,000 per year, based on the gross up for benefits of having these drivers, this would be the total cost of their annual wage. And this is the industry average in the United States right now of cost of turnover. So the cost per employee turnover of your drivers would be $12,000. So if you had 5 drivers leave your organization in the past year, this $61,750 was the true cost of turnover for your organization. So yes, some of these tips that I've mentioned before, of those 6 tips, may increase the cost of your transportation program. Yes, but if you can reduce this turnover, you will decrease your total cost of turnover, which if you put on a scale, and that's something that CTAA mentioned, is that the cost to implement all of those best practices mentioned before do not overcome the total turnover cost that you can remove with those programs. So it's important to keep that in mind because implementing those programs can impact positively your bottom line at the end of the year when you look back and you see that instead of having maybe you're having a 5 to 10 driver turnover every year, and implementing those programs can decrease that to 1 or 2. So it's thousands of dollars that you can be saving per year by just increasing and improving some of your programs to retain and recruit new drivers. So now with this in mind, I want to bring it to our mobility managers who are also going to explain a little bit more about what were the um, best practices that they have implemented based on these topics, or if they have any other innovative ideas that they have created on their agencies, because we understand that this is a national best practice, but there are some best practices that might be better suited for us in our region here in Maricopa County. So we're going to turn to our mobility managers, and I want to start. Let me see that everybody's in here. I'm going to start with Eric. It's the first one I see here on my list. Eric, if you want to talk a little bit more about how these have been working for TCH, and if you have any other comments of how TCH has been doing with your driver retention.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Eric here with TCH. So we, for our group home and day programs, we actually don't have a driver position. It's split up between driving and non-driving direct support caregivers. Um, so let's see, some of the things we have in place are an Employee of the Month and Employee of the Year program. We have annual drivers training to make sure all of our drivers are up to date on all of their policies and procedures. Let's see. It's here. Let's see, those are some of the things that we have going on.
Can you hear me? I think my microphone might have gone away. Okay, yes, you can hear me. All right, thank you so much, Eric. Now I'm gonna go to Billy. I see you have your video already on. So if you want to talk a little bit more about how Chandler Gilbert Arc has been dealing with this issue.
Sure thing, Zacchaeus. Thank you. Like Eric's program and like TCH and like a lot of organizations, really, we have driving positions, but they would only really be a position if somebody came in and said, I only want to be a driver. So, and we have had from time to time drivers here and there, and are also in the process of actually training a volunteer driver. So we're excited about that as well. And so we've been really looking at sort of trying to strengthen our volunteer engagement program and involve drivers more as volunteers, and also team them up with paid staff members. So, and with the result being that we end up with more support for the riders that are on the vehicle. So, you know, that's been a really positive change, and we're excited about one volunteer driver that we have coming up. Again, like I mentioned, most people that drive for the organization are DSPs or direct support professionals that also work as support personnel. So, so any of the kind of incentives or any of the kind of support that we provide to staff or to drivers is usually being provided to regular staff. Recently, we received some ARPA monies, and we actually used some of those ARPA monies to recognize our drivers. Only our drivers. We had sort of a category for people that were just drivers, because in a lot of cases, and I put this in the chat, but it was more toward the end of what Dee Dee was talking about, but one of the issues that we have sometimes with drivers is not that we don't have enough people. Well, we do not have enough people, but a lot of the people that we have are too young, or they don't have 3 or 5 years of driving history, or they don't have a perfect driving record or some kind of thing like that. So they're unable to drive, even if they wanted to drive. Then there's other people that are not comfortable driving, or don't want to drive, or are not not interested in driving or whatever. So what we did is we took some of our ARPA monies and we dedicated that specifically and had an event where we talked about that and recognized those people as being such a key part of our agency mission. So we have a mentor program as well, to where we team people up with experienced drivers until for as long as they need to be. And then we sort of usually just sort of wean the mentor off as the person feels more comfortable with driving, which I think really adds a lot to the comfort that people have. We put our drivers really closely in touch with the destinations and all the people that are at the destination, so that they really kind of develop a relationship, especially when we're going to family homes and things like that. So they really get to know the parents or the caregivers or whomever it is. So and then the last thing is we have a dedicated dispatcher that works particularly at key times in the morning when we're doing door-to-door transportation, and in the afternoon when we're doing it. So the drivers, everybody has a phone, everybody has a number, everybody has addresses where they're supposed to be, and they have the support of the dispatcher. If they run into any issues, then the dispatcher can sort of advocate for the driver and call family members, tell them we're going to be late, or different things like that. So that's some of the things that we're doing. We'd always like to be doing more, for sure. So the presentation that you made, I wrote a lot of that stuff down, and I'm probably going to be asking you for that PowerPoint at some point. So that's about it for me.
Thank you so much, Billy. Next in line, I have Justin McGregor.
Yes, thank you, Hezekiah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I've been having technical issues today. So unlike Eric and Billy, I do have designated drivers. And let me explain why. I found that having designated drivers actually increases the safety and reliability of the transportation system. We used to have the same system where DSPs would double duty as drivers. Well, we found that they were getting burnt out too quick, and they just weren't caring about maintaining and upkeep of the vehicle and the safety of the vehicles. So we kind of went away from that into just hire direct drivers, and the safety aspect of it has been tenfolds better than what it used to be. So with that said, we do a recognition program annually. We do mentorship. So like all agencies out there, you have to wait for a fingerprint clearance card to clear. So for that time that they're waiting for, from the time they apply to the time they actually get the card in the mail, so they're on a mentoring with a senior driver for that. And I do monthly feedbacks, biannual feedbacks, and annual feedbacks. And I make sure that everyone knows where they stand at all points, as well as biannual trainings and annual trainings. And then I sit down and have one-on-one focus on what their goals and aspirations are, and how I can, steer them in the right direction to achieve these goals or aspirations that they want to achieve or get to. And for me, I find everything that I have in place seems to be working because I have a really strong team of drivers that have been with me for a long time now. So my retention is really good, and I'm proud to say that all the hard work that I put into the program has paid off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. And our newest mobility manager with Gumpers, Andrea Williams.
Hi. Okay, so I love the idea of the mentor program that was suggested, and I want to get with our director and start something like that. because we too also have individuals coming in that want to drive. They don't have their driving record or they're not old enough, just like that was stated as well. But they do want to drive. So I think that mentor program would be a great idea. What we have also done, kind of the same what Billy was saying with the dispatcher, we have our transportation supervisor as the main contact. He's our point of contact to make those phone calls. You know, if like this morning we just had a fender bender, there were no members in the van, but the van was going to be late because we had to get another driver. So he's our main person to make all of those phone calls, and we routed it that way, and it seems to be really efficient. And supervisor is now meeting with all of our drivers. He's increased the time that he's meeting with them instead of just the way that he was doing it. He does check-ins. And we have a mix of both. We have designated drivers, but then we also added a slight increase for our DPS individuals that want to drive as well. And that seems to be working pretty good for us. And of course, trainings, all the trainings that we can have, we send them to. And that's where we're at right now. And I also would like the PowerPoint. And that's it.
Hi, Ezekiel. Before we move on, I have a couple of comments I'd like to make. And thank you, all of our mobility managers, for offering your input on this. This is something that is affecting not only the state, not only the region, it's a national crisis. We have gone to workshops, we've gone to national conferences, and there is always a workshop or training on staffing, hiring, retention. This is something that we've talked about internally, we talked about with our sub-region mobility managers, and definitely we feel this is a bigger conversation and we want to hear your comments. But when Ezekiel's brought this information from the national CTA conference that he went to and the resources, there was two things that kind of jumped out at me. And Ezekiel, well, three things. Was the cost. Ezekiel, can you bring up that that cost slide? I was like, that looks really, that looks a lot. I'm like, can you break this down for me? And definitely, and I'm like, they really have a formula for this. And I'm sure with everything, you can get a formula for anything. But when you really look at this and you look at not only the time that you do for the hiring process, you know, you have a hiring committee, you have an application process, but then the cost after the hiring, you know, the time of the human resource person, for our pretend organization, having my time to oversee the driver and then having Ezekiel's time to train the driver and still working with the HR and any other administrative persons. That is you're looking at quite a bit of cost in there that's not only expended by your one hire, is by everybody who supports that. So thank you for bringing that up. The other thing I questioned as a kid on was a lot of the information was on kind of internal process. If we can go back just to the regular group picture, was all of these enhancements, and I was, you know, asking how does this retain your staff, you know? But then if you really look at it, those who are at your organizations, they are unique. They have a unique purpose. It's not that I'm just going to get a job and get a paycheck, but there is something unique about all of those that work in our field, and that we have to market that purpose, that sense of purpose of why you're doing the jobs that you have. And that all made sense. It's true. You know, the drivers, the drivers that you have a unique sense of purpose. Your staff, yourself, you're working in not one of the highest, paid field. Human services isn't that high, paid field, but you do have a unique sense of community and a unique sense of purpose. And that's where all of these tips, all of these strategies come into play. And at MAG, we also need to recognize the hard work that you do. And that's why we're looking at putting together a driver just a recognition that you can self elect a driver that's working really hard for you. And we just like to make that recognition, but at future TAP meetings. But not only is the staffing crisis hitting our field, is also affecting all aspects of it. Some of you may notice that when you put a vehicle into to get maintenance or into the shop, it may take longer because not only are they experiencing staffing shortages, but those industries that provide supplies are also experiencing staffing shortages. So even supplies are are being limited. So I really appreciate everybody who's taking the time to be a part of this discussion. We want to share, best practices, challenges, what are things that we really need to look into. So Ezekias, thank you for bringing this conversation and our mobility managers up. But we would like to hear from you too. Before I begin, we do have a comment and I'd like to read that out. Yale Younger noted that when when DEC hired people specifically to drive, we found they didn't want to comply with our driver training or our agency policies and procedures. We also have found that hiring people to be caregivers as well as drivers, we try to split the routes where a staff drives one route per day, AM versus PM shifts. So we see different techniques at different agencies, utilizing their staff as drivers and staff or staff and drivers. So thank you. Any comments, any other feedback? Ezekias?
Hello, Didi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Andre with Transportation I'm sorry, Foundation for Senior Living. We had kind of we haven't really had the turnover. Our retention is really good, but we did lose a driver, one from retirement and another one who moved to another state. So, and just we struggled to replace that position. Some of it is some of our requirements, background checks, DOT. We went through just dozens of people who couldn't qualify. And, we really struggled for a while trying to hire a driver. Our main thing is, was some of it was pay, and then some of it was the way our transportation works is we have, we have a pickup in the morning, and then you have a split shift, and then a drop off in the afternoon. So they come in for 4 hours, and then they have to leave and come back for, and that was probably our biggest hurdle of getting somebody hired, to come back. But our guys that we have are they've been here for a while, and I just took a lot from you guys today. We could probably do a whole lot more with the recognition. I think that's going to go a long way, especially for our guys who've been here for a long time. We do like a yearly thing, but just the monthly. I think the monthly would go a long way and to show our appreciation for our guys, because it is, it's not an easy job, and for our guys to be here to show them, how much we appreciate, So I did take a lot, and I'm gonna talk to my bosses and get some of that stuff going forward to do more for our guys who are here, just because we haven't had that retention problem, and it just shows a lot more for the culture for our drivers who have been there. So I really appreciate what you guys. I learned a lot today, and from everybody, and appreciate the work that we all do. Man, it's not easy, and it helps. It goes a long way, when you see your clients and you know how much it means to them. So appreciate all you guys do, Mag and the city of Phoenix. This was a great stuff today from you guys.
Andre, thank you for those comments. And this is exactly what we would like to hear from you because I've gone to a couple of trainings and some of their suggestions are, well, why don't we look at hiring, school bus drivers to fill those drivers' seats. And then I've heard comments back saying, well, the school bus drivers have the same hours that our programs are running on. So that's not really an option. So you have people giving strategies and, alternatives, but hearing from people saying not just saying it won't work, but explaining why it doesn't work. And like you said, having that split shift, having, that downtime, if you do hire specific drivers, not everybody can afford to work in the morning and work in the afternoon. And how do you do the scheduling for that? So thank you, Andre, for those comments. And and it's really good to hear that you don't have a retention problem. What are some of your most popular kind of um, programs or incentives that you use? I'm curious.
We do yearly for our drivers. We give them gift cards to like Walmart. We do that. We recognize our drivers yearly. Well, I think we could do a little bit more, maybe monthly. And to what we were able to do as we did struggle for a year to hire is we hired some of our new staff that we struggled hiring for helpers inside of our centers with our clients. So we hired part-time where they work part-time on the floor, with our clients, and they're part-time drivers. Where that really helped us out was like last year we had some of our older drivers who had, tons of PTO that we can't carry over that we must use. So with our new part-time drivers who work part-time floor, which alleviated some of the pain that we were not having the floor staff. They drive, and now our guys get their PTO time off, and because they're driving part time, it just works out. It worked out really well for us, along with our full time drivers.
Thank you for sharing.
I'd be curious to know if people are using direct support professionals also as drivers, if people are paying differentials for that. We do. If a person is a driver as well as a DSP, they get a different amount of money per hour, and it's not just for the hours they're driving. Their wage is different. So I'd just be curious as to whether other agencies do that.
That's how we do it at Gompers, Billy.
Okay.
We have designated drivers at our sites, but we also use our peer supports as backup. But there's no differential. Generally, the peer supports are making more than the drivers anyways. But we try to make sure that there's one designated driver at each site. Then every staff is basically a backup driver because you just never know when you're going to have that all out.
Sure.
The need to pick up more than your band can hold.
Yeah, we do the same thing. One of the challenges, I think, a lot of this stuff is just sort of a moving target too. It's continuously evolving. The point being is when you were talking, Dee Dee, about school bus drivers. Years ago, when everybody had the summer off for school, we used school bus drivers in the summer. But school is like a year-round thing, a lot more at least, so it's really harder to find people that just have a certain amount of time off in the summer because there's so much school. The summers seem shorter than they used to be. And so, but we used to do that. We had a summer program for a while and we hired school bus drivers to drive for that program. I think one of the things that we try to do that sort of fits into the stuff that you got from CTAA, Zacchaeus, but try to really inspire people to want to drive because of the mission, because of our mission. Not just that we want you to drive and we're going to reward you for it, but you know, the whole agency is about people getting out in the community, and you're the key to that. And kind of, so we work really hard to try to inspire people in that way. Some people it works, and some people it doesn't work, you know. And as I mentioned earlier, also another one of the challenges that we have is that there's just less people that drive than used to drive. There's more options for public transportation. There's more people. It's affordability to even have a car is not what it used to be. And so if you don't have a car, why would you have a license? And if you don't have a car and a license, then you don't have a driving record. And if you don't have a driving record, you can't drive for us because our insurance says you have to have driven for 3 or sometimes 5 years, and you have to be a certain age, you know. And so a lot of those things become challenges too. So we have people like Steve, I think, was saying, we try to keep drivers at a driver at every site, and we have to for emergency purposes, but that can become a challenge for us as well. Not because somebody doesn't want to drive, it's because they're not qualified to drive. They're 21 and they've only been driving for a year, and they live at home, you know, or some kind of thing like that, you know. So that's another one of the challenges and that we have. And
Billy, you brought up a really good point, and I can relate that to personal experience. My daughter is 18, and she has a group of 8 friends, and only one of them really drives. One kind of drives around the neighborhood. So they're going to be out in the workforce, and none of them drive. So that is a really important point that you brought up.
I am glad that you brought that up, Billy. And Dee Dee, same. My youngest child is now 17. When he was, under 16, he's learning how to drive, and then he's 16, and he's the only one out of his friend group that got a job and got a license. And I don't know if that's because I was like, this is what you're going to do, or if he wanted to do it on his own. But regardless, he was the only one out of, like you said, 7 or 8. And we have the same thing, Billy, where people are like, I don't want to get my license. They have no interest in it. And so it's just such a different time and world from back when, we couldn't wait. So
right,
good point.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think throughout this whole discussion is the messaging. It kind of comes back to the messaging of, is no longer, okay, we have a job, and it's, people are vying for that job. Even here at MAG, we've had some jobs open for quite a while. I mean, with just not enough people wanting to apply for it. So it has to do with the messaging. And Marcia did put up in the chat about, experiencing drivers who were not a great fit, and not taking the policies and procedures to heart. And so I think with the messaging and with the internal initiatives that your agencies are doing, I think that will help to better filter who applies for that position, so that you will get the people who want to be there.
Hey, Dee Dee, one of the biggest things I noticed too, that if you offer a performance initiative, like a pay increase after the first 90 days, if they're following protocol, following procedure, doing everything they're supposed to be doing, then after that 90 days, they qualify for a bump in pay. And then you set another one for, maybe 6 months down the road, and then after that annually. So, and I find by doing that, you're actually going to get people who are serious about proving themselves and maintaining the standards and following the policies and procedures that are set in front of them. So, I mean, I have no problem with any of my people following policies and procedures, and maybe I'm lucky, but it seems to be working so far for me.
Thank you for your comments, Justin. I definitely think putting more on the back end is going to be beneficial. As I said, as the kids and I have been to conferences and workshops where we're even hearing that even hiring incentives are not working. And we've heard from agencies that are, doing $1,000 of bonuses and they're still not getting the staffing that they need. So I think we have to shift the paradigm and look at this differently and kind of message the need to get the quality of drivers that you guys are looking for that will stay. And this industry is not easy. You're on the front lines. You're providing those services to the consumers, and to the most vulnerable in our population. So it does take a special type of person who wants to fulfill that need.
Yeah, good case in point there, Dee Dee. We did an experiment. We had some other funds that we got through ARPA, and we did an experiment and offered a $7,500 driving sign-on bonus that was payable over 6 months. And I think we got like 6 applications over the course of 3 months, but then we increased the starting wage and we got like 4 times that many, and we cut the bonus to $1,000. And anybody that would do the math would know that the $7,500 bonus would have been the way to go. But oftentimes people don't look at things that way. And so that was a real eye opener for us to see that, because we were braced for the doors to get knocked down, people coming in, with a bonus like that, payable over 6 months, which equated to, I don't know, $13 an hour extra or something crazy like that. Or I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot, and we didn't get that. So that was a real eye opener for us. Kind of gave us an idea of what people are really looking for in that respect. So.
Thank you, Billy. Anybody have any other comments or any questions? Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that we take this time to hear you out, get your feedback, get your comments. Like I said, this is not affecting, just a few of us. This is affecting agencies from, throughout the country. As a case, if you don't mind if I put you on the spot, what were your key takeaways from all of these workshops that you attended? If you can
My
share.
key takeaways from the CTA conference in general and the workshops attended does fall in line with some of the things that we've been talking about here right now. That drivers, they're not just looking for the dollar amount, right? As Billy just mentioned, it's yes, maybe they're looking at the dollar amount in a different way. It's not on the bonuses, it's on the hourly wage that they will get, but it's also about the other thing that we've been talking about. What is the mission of the organization, right? They are not just joining an organization because they want to get a salary. And I think that's something that has been happening with the younger generations of they are joining organizations based on their mission and what are the benefits that they're bringing to society and their communities. So this is one great takeaway from the discussions we had in the conference, is that yes, there is a difficulty of hiring, there is a difficulty in recruitment, but that is a difficulty not only on our industry. It's not just for nonprofits, it's not just for transportation, it's a nationwide issue for most, if not all, industries. And that the paradigm has shifted from people who are joining organizations because they need to make a paycheck to people who are joining organizations that align with their worldview. So keep that in mind, is that sometimes we focus so much on the day-to-day of the work that we are hiring for when we are doing our job postings, and we're forgetting about the day-to-day work that our organization does to our communities instead. And that might be a better way of finding better fit recruiting for your organization, not only for driving, but for all of your positions in general.
Thank you, Ezekiel. And I also want to add some comments, not to scare anybody, but just to um, just for information. We are at a time in our nation, in their country, that our older adult population is increasing like we've never seen it before. Unfortunately, that also means that our population that would be the age of the workforce has not caught up to that. So the workforce population is decreasing like we've never seen it before in history. So there is a really cognizant um, recruitment of any employees, of staff across the board, not just with our agencies here. So we are competing against, public and social services agencies, just like with our vehicles. When we had some issues with getting enough vehicles to fulfill our awards. We're competing against the fire department, ambulances that also use our same kind of type of vehicle body, the cutaways. It's just like that supply of vehicles is shrinking. So is the workforce population shrinking. So as kids, that is a really good point, that you and great information that you caught at these conferences is that changing that paradigm, looking at it differently. The incentives are not working. We've heard that from agencies across the country that these bonuses and incentives of hiring or recommending your friend to sign on bonuses are not working. But we are seeing little by little that the initiatives that your agencies are taking to retain your staff is working. You know, maybe kind of refiguring that the wage. As Billy had pointed out. Just bumping it up, is working. So all of these are in combination, holistically looking is working and making your workforce environment inviting. Um, Anybody else have any comments, any suggestions, any tips that you would like to offer? Because Billy, I see, from the chat when you're talking about a driver wage for caregivers, when you're talking about I forgot what the topic of, but a wage, quite a few people were saying that they were also doing the same technique that you were doing. Um, and maybe off at the top of my head, maybe we should pull together these agencies that are retaining their staffing, like Andre and Justin, and there's quite a few out there, possibly DAC, and pull them together, pick their brains and try to get some best practices from them. Billy, did you have a comment?
This one. Oh, really? And there's Heather.
No.
Looks kind of nice. Oh, but the big deal about this one is it has this so you can hold your water.
Hi. I was like, was that a comment? As a kid?
Not for me.
I know. I heard conversation. I'm like, all right.
Hi,
Anybody
Dee
else?
Dee. This is Wendy. These are all such great suggestions, and you guys have really, really thought about this because we know how impactful it is. But that let me out of this box. I'm thinking, Billy, like the title of your trainings is, how do we look at a different way of doing a service delivery? Is it truthfully that we need more drivers? how else can we be looking at providing the services that we provide without needing as many people to be transported around to do so? You know, you could just look at it from several different ways. That was just the only thing that came to my mind.
Or do they need to be transported some other way other than our drivers too? You know,
Correct.
utilizing public transportation to the degree that we could be, or contracted transportation. And as agencies, are we reimbursed enough to even be able to afford to do that? Of course, the answer to that is no, but yeah.
Right. But we know too that, because we've talked about it at length, the idea of a brokerage where several different agencies working together to hire but the only way that that really, really works is to have enough similarities in the locations where these people are going to make it, super scheduled and beneficial, and routes and route maximization and things like that to make it super helpful. So
Definitely.
Definitely, Wendy. Thank you for bringing that up. Even though that might not fit at this time, we still need to keep that on our radar to see, the possibility and opportunity where that could fit. So that definitely needs to be a part of the bigger discussion. Marcia wrote in the chat that we even changed the position titles from the direct care professionals to direct caregivers to have a sense of compassion. And then that has worked. We get a few. So that's a really good tip, Marcia. I know we're towards the end. I just wanted to make sure anybody else have any comments, any questions? Any of our sub-regional mobility managers have any last comments?
This is Jeff from Civitan. One thing I've also noticed too from just the last few years of trying to find drivers is it also depends on the time of year. Is that sometimes it's been easier to find individuals when it comes closer to summer, or it's even closer to winter has been an interesting vision that I've seen, is that sometimes I've found that it's better at like peak times for for travel, that I've actually found more staffing at that time. So it's definitely interesting to see where it is with all the other companies too. When have they found like particular times of the year has been easier to find staff? Because similar to what was said before, is for Civitan, we used to hire the bus drivers during the summer. That's not an option anymore. So we found it more come wintertime when staff were just needing more, extra pay, is when we found the availability for drivers. Because they just want that little extra incentive coming up to Christmas and other stuff like that. So I'm just curious if that's kind of been something that other companies have seen.
We've seen it, but we haven't really paid attention to it as a sort of a cyclical thing. But I find that interesting. We know, I mean, obviously sometimes it's like nobody applies for work in January kind of thing, after the holidays, but not quite so specifically as you've seen it, Jeff. So I find that interesting for sure. The other thing that I was thinking sort of as a last comment for me too, is that as a mobility management project, or the next time we get together and have one of our meetings, I think it'd be nice for us to have a conversation about maybe developing a stay survey to give to agencies like Justin's or Andre's, who have less turnover than other organizations, because we can talk about it all we want, but really we should be asking the drivers, why are you still there? Why are you still driving for them? What is it about stars that you like so much? And kind of take that take that angle, and maybe if we do it as a mobility management project, then those results can be shared amongst TAP participants.
I totally agree with that. Definitely, we need, like, as Akia said, we need to change the paradigm. We need to change the focus. I know Jeff is saying, I agree with that. Andre is saying, great idea. I think that's really important. What is making these drivers, especially Andre's, stay? Let's survey them. Let's get their information. I agree. At our next sub-regional mobility managers meeting, let's take this to further discussion. That's a great idea. Yale is saying our staff has always said the members we serve are the reason why they stay. Regardless of what benefits, incentives, or pay we offer, the members is the primary reason why our staff stay. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I know our topic is transportation to our consumers, and I've said this before. You are not transit agencies. You are not transportation agencies. Transportation is a way to get your consumers to the programs that you offer, and that definitely is your mission. Is providing those services to the community. So I definitely agree with that. Anybody else have any last comments, any last ideas? We will keep this conversation going. Definitely, if you have any comments that you think afterwards, feel free to send it to Ezekiel or myself. As you just heard, our mobility managers are on this topic. They want to provide you resources that will help their agencies and all agencies in the region. So we will keep this conversation going. If you have any suggestions you would like us to look into, that that is great. I know this has been a topic that we've had for going on years. It's not new. And usually our response is, hey, we'll look at speakers, we'll look at bringing a trainer in. But as Ezekiel noted, we need to look at it on a regional basis to help our member agencies, because it's being felt all over. We need to look at what techniques we can employ at this time. Okay. With that, I would like to thank everybody for staying on for so long. This was a great conversation, a great discussion. You guys are the front lines providing these services. We greatly appreciate the time that you shared with us this afternoon. Thank you, and have a great evening. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.